A dense wooded area. Big trees, small trees, thick bush, freezing temperatures, and unknown predators. Two males move around in the darkness of the woods. By day they hunt. By night they create fire and they eat from the land. They are unkempt, unshaven, dirty, and animal-like. Why are they here? Why are they here? Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Alright, quick catch up, couple of shout outs, and on with the story. So since I mentioned in the last episode, when I was talking about France, that I could see the figures of how many people listen in each country, there's been a lot of interest. There's been a lot of people going, how many people listen in this particular country? How many people listen there? So I'm currently doing that research because I think it is quite interesting to know that. So in a future B Notes episode, I'll update on that. I'll host it like a sort of Eurovision song contest, if you will, of listener figures. That'd be like France, 367 listeners. Poland, nil point. Well, I don't know. I have to check if I've got any Polish listeners out there. Okay, let me just do a couple of quick hellos and then on with this short story. Hello to Linda Gill. Now I think it's Gill. It could be Jill, but I'm going to go with Gill. Anyway, Linda in Ireland. Hello and thank you for listening. You've had a busy time, Linda, with lots going on in the family, and I hope that you are good and I hope that you're well. Your lovely daughter Helen got in touch with me to say that you were enjoying the podcast, and Linda, it's lovely to have you listening. Thank you. Claire Winnie. Hello, Claire. Thanks for listening. Thanks for joining the Facebook group. Lovely to have you along, Claire. Anne Ryan on Twitter. Hello, Anne. But thank you, Anne, for listening and for binge listening and for being along for the Extraordinary Stories podcast ride. And lastly, to Podcast Candy on Twitter, who said some very, very nice things about Extraordinary Stories podcast. I thank you, Podcast Candy Reviews, for that. Alright, on with the story. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Alright, we're going to start with a little role play. No, not the kind of role play that your filthy minds are thinking of. I'm not talking, a police officer and criminal or nurse and patient, but instead something, way less sexy. Well, I don't know, it depends whether you think that's sexy or not. Right, so for the first minute of this story, you're going to be in role as a German man who works in the Berlin city halls, and I will play the role of the person who has come to the Berlin city halls. Okay, so there you are, right? You're in your office. You're surrounded by papers, files on your desk, your computer's on, you're getting emails, lots are happening. It's 2011, it's a busy time in Berlin. It's a Tuesday morning, it's 11 a.m, and you have a lot of work ahead of you. I'm unsure what the name is of this person, but, well, you're German. It's a German person, so I'm gonna guess it's Klaus. Apologies, Germany. I don't mean to offend, but let's just call you Klaus. So you, Klaus, you get a phone call from one of your colleagues to ask you to come and help with a situation which has just presented itself. Okay, well, what could this be? In the city halls, it's usually something along the lines of someone wanting to hire city halls for a function, a wedding, a party, a conference. Lots and lots of things go on in city halls. The one that I'm describing in Germany is actually, it's a beautiful building. Oh, it's absolutely stunning. I saw it when I was in Berlin. It's gorgeous. It's called the, well, in German, the Rotes Rathaus. Great. That was excellent, Barry. Well done. Right, here's where Klaus starts to get a strange feeling, because his colleague asks him if he would come to room 174. Now, room 174 is the floor below where he works, and only used when something serious or something that has to remain very private or something that is extremely sensitive has arrived in the building. So down Klaus goes to room 174, and at the door waiting is a colleague who is looking very anxious. Again, I don't have her name either, so we're going to call her Claudia. So Claudia explains there is a boy in the room who appeared at the front desk 20 minutes ago, and he has a strange story to share. So into the room they go, and they're sitting at tables, and there's a boy who they guess is about 16, maybe 17. So he's got sort of blonde, mid-length hair, and he's looking around the room. He's seated at one of the tables, but he's looking around the room, and he's in a bit of a state of panic and a bit of anxiety. When Klaus approaches him, he stretches his hand out to shake the boy's hand, and the boy is reluctant to shake hands. Klaus introduces himself and says, "Okay, let's start with your name, and then we'll get to why you're here. Let's just get your name." And the boy says nothing. That gap was me being the boy saying nothing. I thought I performed my role very well in that moment. So then Klaus says to him again, I just need your name. I just need to know what you're called. And the boy says, "I don't know." So this confuses both Klaus and Claudia. Claudia sort of looks at Klaus with a like, "I told you this was weird. I told you it was going to be odd." Again, Klaus tries for the third time. Okay, he says to him, I really need to know your name so that I can understand how I can help you and why you've come to City Halls and what can I do? The boy this time says, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it's Ray. So you think your name's Ray, okay? Everyone's confused at this point. At this point, the boy will say 3 things which make the situation completely bizarre. He says, I am all alone in the world. I don't know who I am. Please help me. So when these words are spoken, a very quick meeting is held outside of room 174. The staff in City Halls, what they're trying to work out now is, are they dealing with someone with amnesia? Are they dealing with someone who's suffering from mental health issues? Are they dealing with a runaway or someone who's lost? What the hell are they dealing with? They just don't know. I think my name might be Ray, but I'm not sure, boy waits inside the room, and the City Hall's staff make a decision. And that decision is to call police. They want to, at this point, and I get this, they want to hand it over because they don't know what to do. I'm not sure anyone would really know what to do in that situation. That is bizarre. That's very, very strange. So right, they're waiting for police. They're waiting, police are on their way, and they say to him, okay, well, could you check your possessions? Just check your bag. Just see what you've got here. See if that can give us any kind of clue to anything. So he's got a small rucksack and a smaller kind of over the body bag. Over the body bag? That doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? Like a little bag that he wears over his shoulder. So he's got his rucksack and he's got this little bag. And what they're saying to him is, can you look specifically for a passport, a document, anything at all which might have your name on it? He goes through the bags. They help him. Nothing. Not one shred of evidence to say who he is, where he's from, at all. Nothing. Staff are beginning to detect an accent which they think isn't German, and they're thinking it's possibly Dutch, but there's a little bit of British going on in his accent. I can't even imagine what that's like. It's like, I don't know, yeah, just some sort of weird Dutch British accent happening. Anyway, police arrive. 2 officers from the Berlin police force come into the room, and the same rigmarole begins. What's your name? Don't know. Do you have any identification? No. This continues, and then they ask a question. The question that unlocks the story. And the question is this. Where were you just before you came to City Halls? And Ray begins to speak. He says, the forest. I was in the forest. Okay, why? Ask police. He says, I lived there. What? You lived in the forest? He says, yes. For how long? So they're thinking he's possibly a runaway. He's run away from home. He's got lost. And he spent a few nights in a forest. So they repeat the question, how long were you in the forest? And he says, 5 years. Silence. Stunned silence. 5 years, they ask him. Were you alone? No, he says. Not alone. I was with my father. And where is your father now? He replies, he is dead. I buried him in the forest. Okay, so police are like, right, we have got quite the situation on our hands. They ask the boy to elaborate, and reluctantly he does so. And he tells them the following. He was living with his mother and his father, and he was an only child. His mother died in a car accident. And when she died, his father's grief was so strong that he took his wife's body and his young son and they walked into the forest. And it was here that his father buried his mother in the ground. And once she was buried, they just never left the forest. He says his father was so grief-stricken that he suspected he had gone mad and that he was too young to know what to do. The police are now thinking how hard it must have been for a 12 or 13-year-old boy to deal with that. So now what they want to know is, they want to know about his father. What happened? Where is he buried? What's gone on? And he says that in the last few weeks, his dad got sick and he was doing less and less. And that one morning he awoke and he found his dad dead. And so, in the way that his dad had buried his mother, he buried his father in the woods. Again he repeats to police, I am all alone in the world. I don't know who I am. Please help me. After hearing his story, police take him from City Halls to the police station. Klaus and Claudia, they say their goodbyes and they go back to work. So police immediately fill out forms and they immediately find sheltered housing for him. And now the search really begins. The search for who is he? Let's look for records of him. Let's see what we can find. And it becomes a massive search. Who is Forest Boy? What is the real identity of Forest Boy? So the media picks up the story and he goes by kind of two names. He either goes by Germany's Unknown Boy or just Forest Boy. In lots of articles, lots of news stories. And it's gone worldwide at this point. In fact, when I was researching, I was finding like ABC News in America reporting on this story because it's so strange. It's just so weird. All of this was in the hope that somebody, anybody, might come forward with a link and say, I know who this is, or I knew his family, or whatever. The tricky thing here is that actually because he is a teenager, his face can't really be used in lots of the media to identify him. So instead it's blurry. It's a really blurred out image that appears in the news. And Ray, as he thinks his name might be, he's put up in a hostel in Germany. and he's given money by the government to be able to sustain himself. Over the next 9 months, 2 things happen. Police search the forest that he's come from for the remains of his father and his mother, but without any luck at all. They just cannot find anything. Authorities in those 9 months, they take care of Ray. He becomes, I guess what you would call like a ward of the state, or whatever it's called. Well, whatever the term is, he's being looked after. Interpol are now involved in the search for his identity. They're doing everything. They're taking blood from him, they're taking dental records, and they're trying really hard to track down who the hell is Forest Boy. Now, back in City Halls. 9 months have passed, and, well, what did I call them? Klaus and Heidi. Klaus and Claudia. Not Heidi. They're reflecting on that day in City Halls. Because, I mean, that was a really out of the ordinary day for them. And now they're seeing the story across the news, and they're going, oh, that was just the weirdest day in work. They don't have anything to do with it, of course, anymore. It's out of their hands. It's a police matter. But in their conversations, they start to wonder about a few different things. They start to think back to the fact that Forest Boy had with him 2 bags, which, from their recollection, were both immaculately clean. They think. Odd. If he'd lived in the forest for 5 years, surely you would see some sign of that, but he was one clean looking guy when he arrived at City Halls. They also question the fact that he was like, I don't know my name, I don't know anything about myself, but actually I think my name's Ray. Well, they're saying either you know or you don't. And they question, and this is a very good question, why come to City Halls? Why not go straight to police? So these things are weighing on their mind. They've got questions. At the same time, police they're running out of ways to find the real identity of Forest Boy. Now, he's quite happily living in Berlin with government assistance, but police still just cannot get to who he is. But they decide to give it one more shot, and this time they decide to post an image to the media, and it's a non-blurred image. So for the first time, the world is actually seeing Forest Boy's face. The image goes up, it's out, and 24 hours later, they receive a very interesting phone call. The person on the phone says, I know him. I know who Forest Boy is. Okay, so who is this on the phone? It's a girl who says, I was his girlfriend about a year ago. Okay, that doesn't add up. He was in a forest a year ago. No girlfriend was ever mentioned. She explains, his name is Robin van Helsum, and he's 19 years old, almost 20. She explains he wasn't a vulnerable teenager, and his mother did not die in a car crash. More importantly, he certainly had not lived with his father in a forest for 5 years. In fact, Robin van Helsum's father was very much alive, living in the Netherlands, and had no idea where his son was. Robin van Helsum, by the way, love the use of van in a name. I think I might start calling myself Barry Van Henderson. I think it really works. It's pure Vincent van Gogh vibes. Anyway, Robin van Helsum, he was a Dutch boy who had been a bit troublesome in his youth. He'd come from divorced parents. He'd moved out of his father's house, who he lived with years ago, and he barely ever saw his mother. He had a young girlfriend, and at one point discovered that she was pregnant. And she was only 17, and he wanted her to get an abortion, and she didn't do that. So he has a son in the world. Now basically what Robin had decided was that he would hitchhike from his hometown in Netherlands to Berlin. And when he got to Berlin, he concocted this plan. His plan to tell a sob story and then be able to live free of the state as if he was a victim of circumstance. So basically, none of it is true. No dead mother. No dad buried in the forest. No living in the forest for 5 years. You are a liar, a big fat liar. Liar, liar, pants on fire. That's exactly what he is. Big fucking liar. Police, how beautiful, by the way, was my singing a minute ago. I mean, if that was me, like, literally just improvising, can you imagine what it'd be like if I actually got myself a proper writer in a studio? Amazing. Police react to the phone call from the ex-girlfriend by going and finding him and bringing him in for questioning. At which point he admits the whole thing. He says, yes, it's all a lie. None of it is true. Why? They ask, why have you done this? He says he just didn't really fancy his old life much, and, he wanted a change. He admits that he just wanted free money and free housing, and he thought that the best way to do it was to create an elaborate story, an elaborate sob story. Oh, come on. When this was revealed, people were raging, livid. The news and the media, they had invested so much time in trying to discover who he was, and he had tricked everybody. I mean, I'm raging about that. I think that's absolutely fucking awful. Hours and hours, weeks and months of searching for A, bodies that didn't exist in a forest, and for his identity. Thousands and thousands of dollars were spent on this case, and it was all a big fucking lie. Oh, I just can't even. It's just the sheer balls of it. It's just the sheer bare arse cheek to fucking walk into city halls and tell that story and it not be true and get away with it. And just, can you imagine for those 9 months where he's being basically paid to live in a house, have money, go out and do whatever he wants to do? The Berlin fucking government are paying for this, and he's just like, la 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 la, I'm having a great time. Oh, what's that you say? Oh, in America, they've got me on the news. In Australia, they've got me on the news. Oh, it's on the news in the UK. It's in the news all over the world. Who is Forest Boy? And he's having a laugh the whole fucking time. God. But he doesn't get away with it entirely scot-free. He's ordered to pay back nearly 40,000 euros in damages. To pay back some of the costs of people wasting their time searching for things that didn't fucking exist. He's also given community service. So, Robin van Helsum has completed his service, but he's still repaying that debt. He currently still lives in Berlin, but he pays for that himself. And so ends the story. So yeah, there you go. Big liar Van Liar. It's weird, right, isn't it? It's weird because it's so elaborate. It's just so... What were you thinking? And you know that they did all these tests on him once the whole thing came out to discover if actually there was a mental health issue, and nothing was flagged up. He's perfectly sane. He's perfectly normal. He's just a chancer. He just thought he could get away with it. Thank God that they unblurred that image and put that up, because otherwise, how much more money would have been spent on trying to figure out his life and who he was? I discovered in my research, and quite like this fact, there's actually a musical about this story. Yeah, it's called Forest Boy. It's an off-Broadway musical. Can you imagine? Jazz hands, singing, the lights. Oh, it'll be bloody lovely. I'd love to see that. Anyway. Alright, so that's really it. That's really the short story. I hope that you enjoyed that. I just find it really baffling. I find it really weird. And I thought, I really have to share this very, very strange story. Okay? If you want to get in touch with me, you can. You can join the Facebook group. You can get me on Twitter. You can get me on Instagram. If you want to support the podcast, you can. I'm on Patreon. And I would greatly appreciate any support that you can give. Okay, well, until the weekend, until the next episode, you've been listening to Barry Van Henderson. I am out of here. Okay? Goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other.
Dense woodland, big trees, small trees, thick bush. Right. Dense woodland, big trees. It's not working. Dense woodland, big trees, thick bush. I think I need to change that. Right. Dense woodland, big trees, thick bush.
I would imagine from the look on his face.
Oh, no. Right, okay. Let me change it. Right. Dense woodland, big trees, thick bush. Thick bush.
Let's get it on. Let's do it. Let's get it over.
Thick bush. Freezing temperature. I give up. Give fucking up. So fucking immature. I might as well be 5 years old.
Let's get it on. Let's do it. Let's get it over.